Knives in GURPS are quite special, even though at the first glance it seems that what can be more normal than a knife? First, knife is the only easy difficulty melee weapon skill, which makes it very easy to get a decent level in this skill. This also makes it a good backup weapon. Just invest a point into this skill and you will be able to wield a knife decently in a pinch. Knives can be readied quickly with a fast draw knife skill. Let's take a look at the weapon table in GURPS Low-Tech. As you can see, this is a large weapon category that spans from TL0 to TL4. Damage is low, which is expected of such small blades. The highest you can get is swing -1 or thrust +1, and not all knives even get a swinging attack. Damage types are cutting and impaling, plus crushing for the short baton. Reach is either close combat only or close combat and 1 yard. Knives are designed for close combat, and this is where they shine, when you get up close and personal with the opponent. Parry is not good. Most knives get an intrinsic -1 to parry, which hurts a lot. Remember that a -1 in GURPS is not insignificant. GURPS basic set also has a rule that is not mentioned anywhere else. Knives cannot parry flails at all. Knives are cheap, which is great, because not only it makes them affordable to most characters, but it also makes applying quality modifiers easier. Knives are also very light, which makes them even worse for the purpose of parrying. Knives also have low strength requirement, and it is possible to hit the strength cap even for a realistic character. In GURPS, your effective strength when using a weapon cannot be higher than the minimum strength required times 3. Many knives have special features as well. Large knife, small knife, wooden stake and dagger can be thrown with the thrown weapon knife skill. I will talk about throwing knives in more detail in my video on thrown weapons. Katar, deer antlers, knife wheel and slashing wheel have a metal hilt that partially protects the hand. Mangosh has a hilt that fully protects the hand. The Katar can also use brawling or karate parry if it is better than normal. Rondel dagger, Katar and stiletto are better at targeting chinks in armor. Deer antlers can attack to disarm without the -2 penalty to hit. Rondel dagger also can be locked with any metal gauntlets to make disarming you more difficult, but only in reversed grip. A special mention should be given to the balisong. It can be folded or unfolded with a ready maneuver to give a +1 to holdout. GURPS Martial Arts introduced fast draw balisong skill to flip it open quickly, but it is not available on low TLs. However, in a fantasy game I can definitely see some weaponsmith coming up with a design that allows this, so do not disregard the fast draw balisong skill entirely. Some knives can be wielded with other weapon skills. Long knife can be used with a short sword skill. Deer antlers, knife wheel, rondel dagger, stiletto, slashing wheel and mangosh can be used with a mangosh skill that turns them into an actually good defensive weapon. Quadrants can be used with a jitte sai skill that can make it a good disarming weapon. This table isn't really complete. The knife skill can also be used to wield throwing knives in melee, but at -2 to skill. This should add large throwing knife and small throwing knife to the table. Bayonets are identical to large knives in terms of stats, but cannot be thrown. They can be used with the knife skill. Haladi is a knife with blades above and below the grip. It is identical to the large knife, but lets the user choose freely between the rules for normal grip and a reversed grip, but cannot pummel and gives -1 to skill. I assume that this penalty can be bought off with the exotic weapon training perk. A Haladi costs $80 and weighs 1.5 pounds. I have no idea why it's not on the table. It can be used to represent many fancy fantasy knives. An arrow-like knife such as a Mei-Zi or Xiangkham can be treated as either a small knife, large knife or a long knife, but can only make thrusting attacks. No cost adjustment is mentioned, but I would subtract $10 from the cost. It is noticeably worse after all. I am bringing up some comms because they were a weapon in D&D, and in GURPS they are hidden deep in the text. Kris is a wavy knife that can be treated as a small, large or long knife, not balanced for throwing. Usually it's cheap. Again, no cost adjustment is mentioned, but I would subtract $5 from the base cost. Finally, there's something that in my opinion needs a special mention. There were rules for it in D&D, but in GURPS it might take some time for you to find them, using arrows in melee. An arrow or a crossbow bolt can be used as a dagger that deals full damage, but not more than 1d-4. After any successful strike or parry, roll 1d. On 1, 2 or 3, the arrow breaks. Any special features of the arrow apply here, so you can use a bodkin point arrow with an armor divisor of 2 and so on. I already mentioned reverse grip and even talked about it in other videos, but in my opinion it is the most important for knife fighters. So let's talk about it again. Rules for reverse grip can be found on pages 111 and 112 of GURPS Martial Arts. Basically, any knife can be wielded in the normal grip and reverse grip, and changing between the two requires a ready maneuver. You can do it as a free action if you roll against your reverse grip technique. There are many effects, but the main one is that thrusting attacks get +1 to damage in reverse grip, but swinging attacks become worse. Swinging attacks of knives aren't good right out the gate, so using knives in reverse grip is more often beneficial than detrimental. Another rule that should be mentioned is tip slash. You can use a thrust-only weapon to deliver weaker cutting attacks. This might come in handy when a dagger is all you've got, but you really need to cut something, like an armor strap for example. In terms of customization, there's not much you can do with knives. If you look through GURPS Lowtech Companion 2, you'll see that you can modify the knife to be better at cutting and worse at stabbing by applying the falchion option. You can remove the hilt or add a basket hilt. You can attach a kusari to the hilt or add prongs for catching blades. And that's it for the knives. They seem simple, but they actually are more complex than some other weapons. You'll not be a great damage dealer with a knife as your weapon of choice, but it is generally a good idea to put a point into the knife skill to have it as a backup weapon. Since this is a rich C weapon, it's one of the few weapons that can be used when grappling with no penalties. In addition, since this is a rich C weapon, you can also use it underwater at no penalty. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.